Here's to country music. Darling, I love it. I love it. I laugh. And today, while I was cleaning up some of the Christmas mess, I was listening to country music. And one of the songs was, I Wouldn't Change It for the World. And I started thinking about some of my romances and thinking about Mel Belli. So in 4 parts, if you're interested, I'm going to tell you about my romance with Mel Belli. And I posted the letter he sent me for New Year's a long time ago. I didn't even look at the date, which startled me that he sent that. But there's something about country music. It just gets to my heart. And I just love it. Maybe it's because I grew up in Texas and Oklahoma. I didn't like it then, but I really like it now. And I was thinking, I wouldn't change anything about my life, not a thing. And my romances, well, the one with Mel Belli made international headlines. And it was very hard to go through at the time, but I wouldn't change it for the world, darling. Mel Belli called me. I didn't know who he was, even though his photograph had been on the cover of Time magazine. He represented Ruby in the JFK assassination, and Jack Ruby, and he was extremely smart. Well, maybe he wasn't smart. He was very intelligent, but he was a scoundrel. And funny, I found I liked the scoundrel in him. I better turn that down a little bit. Unless you want to hear that instead of listening to me. Well, that's okay. I wouldn't mind that. But when Mel Belli called and asked me to go on a date with him, I had no idea who he was. But I have never had such an interesting time in my life. That man was fearless, and he was adventurous, and he was outrageous. And I had never met anyone like him before, nor since, actually. And there was something about that personality of his that appealed to me in a way I never realized before. And early on in our courtship, he was to speak at some big gathering at one of the big hotels in San Francisco, a Shriner thing, I think, because he was wearing the hat. And I was wearing, I remember, a beautiful Richard Tam white evening gown. It was beautiful. And outside of this auditorium, Mel had his Rolls Royce parked, and he had gone to, or had someone go, I guess, to the stores, and there were sleeping bags, there was all kinds of things in the back of that car, and we were going up into the Sierra foothills to go horseback riding and camp out. Now that was a big adventure for me, but Mel got up in front of this audience and he said, I know you came to hear me speak, but I know that you will appreciate the fact that there's a beautiful young woman here who I'm in love with. I didn't know that. He was so extravagant. And I would rather be with her than with you. And he walks down and he takes my arm and I'm like, what? You know, at the same time I loved it. And we get in his Rolls Royce and we head for the foothills, the Sierra foothills, which was his home, where he was born. But before that, he stopped at a place in North Beach because he represented a lot of the topless girls. And he went in, he said they owed him some money. He was going to get some money and some refreshments or something. And he came out and he had this big jar of vodka and orange juice, only I didn't know that's what it was. And he started drinking, and I'm not a drinker. But as we go up the mountains into the foothills of the Sierra on those twisty roads, he was like driving all over the road, and I was scared, and I didn't know what to do. And he stopped, I know, at one point, and he got out, and he picked up, he started pulling these branches of manzanita and whatever into the car and put it in the back, and he said, smell that, smell that. Oh, that is so wonderful. And isn't that joyful that someone can do that? But of course he was drunk. So we finally get up to the place where we were going, and it was where we were to have breakfast and change our clothes, of course, and then they would have pack horses for us. But I said to Mel, as we're getting close to this place, Mel, I cannot go with you if you're going to drink. I just won't do it. It's very scary for me. And he said, you don't like my drinking? I said, no, I really don't. I think it's frightening because you've been drunk. And he said, well, how else do you think I'd drive these roads? And I go like, oh. But anyway, there was a dam at this place where we were going, and he dug into the suitcases, and he got this big jar of scotch out, a bottle, and he went to the dam and he threw it in, and he said, I'm not going to take it. So that's how much I care about you. So I said, okay. So we drive up to this cabin where we were to get the horses and so forth. And here I am, still in this white evening gown, and Mel's in black tie, and we go inside, and this woman was cooking breakfast, and she looked up at us without even raising an eyebrow, and she said, yes, you want to change? And I said, yes, please. And so right in yonder, so I go in and change my clothes and to put on jeans and so forth, and we have breakfast. And then we're taken out to get on the horses. Now, I'm not a rider, but I can always pretend. And if it's something I want to do, I'll do it. So here we are riding across the shale that's high up on those mountains to go to a lake where we were going to camp out for a week. And as we're going across this shale and the clippity-clop of the horses' hooves, Mel pulled up alongside me and he said, can you feel how mystical it is here? Do you feel it? And I did. And that's what I loved about him. I really loved that sense of adventure and feeling and mysticism. But then we get to the lake, and they took the horses back. They unloaded everything, and they put a lot of our things up in a tree to keep the bears from getting into the food. But I had an overnight bag. I didn't know about bears. What did I know about any of it? And so Mel said, well, we've got to have a fire, so we'll build a campfire. And I said, okay. And he said, well, where are the matches? And I said, matches? I don't have matches. And he said, we gotta have matches. I said, no, we looked through everything, no matches. So here we were gonna be up there a week, and we couldn't start a fire. Mel says, oh, to hell with it. He said, I'll show you how to use sand for soap. So we go into the lake, and he rubs the sand. Of course, it makes wonderful soap. But I'm worried about the matches. And all of a sudden, Mel got very quiet, and he said, shh. He said, matches. There was a fisherman on the other side of the lake who was fishing, and Mel said, he'll have matches. So we quickly got in our clothes. We go through the scrub. We get over there, and I'm racing, and Mel said, shh, shh, shh. We get close to this man, and Mel said, baby, just be quiet. Let me handle it. And he looked at the men and he said, howdy, you catching anything? And I said, get the matches. And the man says, well, not much. And finally, eventually, Mel said, do you happen to have any matches? Well, the man did. He had a little packet of matches, and he gave them to us. And we go racing back. We start the fire, glad to have the matches, but we had to be very careful of them. There weren't that many. And he fried up bacon, and I don't know what all. We had a really good time. And then, you go to bed early. Well, we each had our own sleeping bags right beside each other. And I doze off to sleep, and Mel's snoring. And I heard something, and I looked out the sleeping bag, and I saw two bears. And I shoved Mel, and I said, Mel, what? They're bears. He said, where? I said, right there. He lifted up his sleeping bag that he had part of it over his head, and he looked out. And he picked up a rock and he threw it at the bear. Nothing happened. He threw another one. And he said, oh, the goddamn bears, to hell with it. And he went back to sleep. I slept too. I didn't know the danger of the bears. And the next morning, everything we had on the ground was ripped apart. And oh my goodness. But that was the beginning of a romance that I wouldn't change the world